Like, Phil, we good to go? Awesome, thanks, Greg. Let's go ahead and start. Roll call first. 6:17, regular business meeting, of our regular April school board, meeting. Merle?
Roll call.
Here. I'm here. Kelsey?
Here.
Jenny? Heidi?
Here.
Crystal?
Here.
And Cher is here. We have a full house. All right, sorry. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order up is agenda consideration. You guys have had a chance to look over it. Do I hear a motion to accept that as presented? I'll move we accept the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We will move along. Public comments. Nobody? Okay. Board communication. Welcome. Have a great crowd here tonight. This is bigger than our normal crowd, so thank you for joining us. Much appreciate you guys coming out. I have, on my first thing was just an appreciation to Dave's here, but to our custodial staff, our maintenance crews, our grounds crews. Did you have?
Well, I just had a couple of, smiling faces and,
I mean, I will,
nice looking ground.
yeah,
Go ahead.
I will, because I told him a couple of times, I said, the grounds look really good, really professional. It's so great to see that new, development with the soccer fields. Things look really, really good and very professional. And so I just wanted to give some kudos for, when the kids all came back after spring break, the classrooms were clean, the floors were squeaky, and so that takes obviously some time and dedication and so I just wanted to say thanks for the board for that and for how well the campus looks, how professional it looks. So, yeah. You got it. Sorry.
Yeah, and I would just say, go ahead, Lynn. See, they're always smiling, no matter. They're always smiling, and I think the important thing to realize is that, we've done a lot of improvements, facilities, internally and externally. And if you look out there where the soccer fields are going in and in some of the spaces, in the corners that we're expanding, that actually creates more work for Dave and his crew. When we start adding square footage to the schools and we start adding acreage, to the property that we're actually utilizing and maintaining and keeping up, that is actually expanding the amount of work that they're responsible for and the maintenance and the upkeep of all of that. So I just want you and I want your staff to know that doesn't go unnoticed. And we appreciate it, and things come up and you just guys say, okay, we'll go figure out how to drag that new soccer facility or we'll get it figured out, and I know that you and your team are doing everything you possibly can to serve kids and serve the community in that way. So just want to say thanks for doing it.
You're welcome. We have a great crew.
All right, next up, this week, I believe we have an ELD migrant family meeting, and Irma, I think, was gonna say a few words about it, so.
Good evening. I just want to say that I'm really excited and the staff is to be able to have you at the EL Migrant Family Meeting, and it is on Thursday evening, and that does include a dinner as well as childcare for our families. And the family dinner begins at 6 o'clock to 6:30. So we would love to have you come and just join us and our families for a really great dinner from Little Oaxaca. And one of the things that's really nice about that is we just get a chance to just share a meal with our community and to give ourselves an opportunity to get to know some new faces. And so we're very excited to be able to have any of you who are able to come be there. We will then at 6:30, we will be in the same location at the primary school, which is the cafeteria. We will then have our meeting begin. And for this meeting, what we'd really like to do is just have our community be able to have conversations with you and to be able to hear from you about what it is that you do as school board members. What is a school board? And so this will be an opportunity for our families to hear directly from you about what your experiences have been as a school board member, and then also be able to give some information too about positions that may be open to the community to apply to the school board position, but also budget committee as well. We will have some flyers too, bilingual flyers that also talk about what those positions look like. And another thing too is that we really would like to be able to have you be at small table groups with our families. We have a set of 4 different questions that we've already let our family members know that will be our topics for that evening, so that you can sit with an interpreter at those tables and be able to really have some conversations with our families and get their feedback. And so we're very excited again to have you, and we welcome you. Last year we were able to do this, and it was wonderful. It was just a wonderful opportunity. Our families thought it was great to be able to hear from you and to be able to have our superintendent there as well. So do you have any questions for me?
I plan on being there.
Great, that's great. Thanks.
Thank
Okay,
you, Irma.
thank you.
Thanks, Sherman.
I wanted to make everybody known, or don't know, we have a vacancy here on the board. And if somebody's so inclined, I think that paperwork is on the website, right? And so that's for a term ending in June of 2025. Also have still 2 budget committee vacancies. We are gonna need to probably close those down pretty soon, because we're gonna be in the middle of budgeting, so. But there again, it's a great way to serve, and I really appreciate anybody who would be willing to step up and do that. Next up is our ASB representative. If you guys wanna come up and tell us about all the great stuff going on right now.
We'd love to. Our clubs are very busy. Not too much. Especially us.
Let's see. Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you all. I hope you're doing well and enjoying this rainy start to April. First we'll start with ASB as usual, and we are currently working on our first responders dinner, which is taking place next Monday. That is April 15th, and it'll be from 6 to 7:30 p.m. in the Commons, and we want to invite anyone here and anyone they know who is a first responder in our community to come enjoy a free dinner. We're having pizza, other food, raffles, bingo, so a bunch of prizes to win that were donated, and it should be a wonderful event. And we're also working on getting ASB elections and prepping for our student of the term assembly, which will be this Thursday during advisory at the high school.
And next up is Key Club, and I know they just had a couple of members attend the district leadership convention. And they also recently held a campus cleanup, which we try and do monthly or so. And they're also very busy interviewing for new officer candidates for the next school season.
For FBLA, for the past month, they've been focused on their state competition. And they've sold these chocolates to fundraise and had multiple people qualify for the national competition in Orlando, Florida. Actually, like a lot of people, most of the members who went to state did end up qualifying. So I think they're gonna have a really big team, which is wonderful. And they had lots of fun. They also got awarded the gold champion chapter, which is a great honor, as well as they are working still with continuing their big brother, big sister program with their primary school.
And FFA is working to, or is planning an upcoming plant sale over at the high school greenhouses on Friday, April 26th from 12 to 6 p.m. If any of you guys want to stop by, I know that they have some very gorgeous flowers growing in there. And it's always a great way to come out and support their club and stuff if anyone's interested.
For Metcha, today on April 8th, they're doing softball concessions, and again next week for the dual track meet. And then on Thursday, they're babysitting for the migrant meeting, which some of you are attending. And they also have a speaker coming Friday, April 19th, doing an advisory from the Marion Polk Food Share to talk about volunteer opportunities at their food bank.
And the NHS is still doing their homework help labs on Monday for all the underclassmen who need any extra studying help and such. And then they're also working on initiating their upcoming members for the next school year. And I believe that ceremony will be held on May 14th in the high school commons. If anyone wants to show up and support the new members. There's quite a few, I think.
For Skills USA, they're prepping for their state competition event and and getting work on their fine details for that.
And that's for robotics. They're finished up the season. They do plan on coming together again in May to help brainstorm ideas next season and such, but as right now, they're kind of on a break.
For NAHS, they have been working on decor and backdrops for May Day, so that's kept them very busy. They also collaborated recently with a local coffee shop, La Petite Bistro, to design cup sleeves.
And yearbook is finalizing their yearbooks. Very exciting. They're currently getting ready to ship off to the printer and are working on the spring sport pages. Also very fun. They have a ton of photographers out there right now for baseball and all that.
Definitely. And then for drama, they have hosted a few meetings for script readings and are hoping to go via show as well. And they're also going to be performing a skit in May Day, so I'll be looking forward to that.
And the prom committee is continuing fundraising all they can get for the dance in May, and they're almost finished planning it. So that's very exciting. Just the finishing touches now.
For May Day, they began working on their decorations and banners, and will be also starting a rehearsal soon for all that.
And then finally, construction tech with Miss Moran. They had just received a grant for 3 projects, which is very cool. An 8x16 cottage, an 8x8 shed, and then multiple cottage accessories. They're hoping to start that come April 15th and are looking forward to showing pictures and their progress and stuff and all that.
Do you have
Very
any?
busy clubs.
Yes, high school is always busy, but we love it. Do you have any questions? Or any asking about any dates, anything?
Sweet.
Okay, thank you guys.
I heard Anita was still looking for help at the track meet for Friday.
Oh, that's a good thing.
Yeah, any volunteers?
That's a big need for a Twilight track
Any
meet this
volunteers?
Friday. You know anyone? Contact, or is it contact Anita, contact Anita.
Please, all the volunteers you can get would be lovely. Thank you. Thanks.
All right, next up, 3F, our UNM leadership team. I'm not sure who should I see Jenna, but is anybody joining you?
It's just me.
Just you? Okay,
Well,
well,
and
welcome.
the elementary people that came.
Absolutely.
I think there's 12. There's a lot of us. Hello. Good turnout. I'm Jana Giles, the union president for the camp. You guys all know me. Hello, it's good to see you all again. I'll just start with like building, and then also primary school shared with me today that their Walk to Read program is going extremely well. They have like so many kids in certain levels that they're needing more. It's just been very successful. There's also field trips coming up to OMSI for 1st and 2nd grade, and they're really excited about that. And they are preparing, well, we all are, for student-led conferences coming up in 2 weeks. And they're really excited to celebrate all the learning that's happening at the primary school, as well as the other buildings. And there was a lot of interest in our summer school, teaching summer school specifically. That was sent out to us with information. It can be licensed or classified, so it's really exciting. And then the intermediate school, we have STEAM going on right now, which is science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. Val and Jan teach STEAM at the end of the day to our third graders, and that's been really fun. And we're also starting state testing this week. So fifth grade just started today. Next week will be third grade, and then we'll just continue on. It's going well. At the middle school, the science adoption stuff is going extremely well. They feel very organized, and Des has just kind of helped lead the way with that. And then the high school, they received notification that they're getting to transfer from the Canvas online system to Google, but they get a year. So they shared this with me because they appreciated the communication and that they have a year to transition versus like by next year in the fall. And then the math department adopted a new curriculum last year, and she said it's going extremely well, and that she appreciated that teacher input was valued and that there was paid time for trainings, and that Des was so invested in finding a good math curriculum for our students. And so she really appreciated Des's work with that. And then for just district-wide licensed staff, huge thank you to Des again. You guys are gonna hear about the calendar later. And again, she brought Teacher Voice into the mix right away. There was no question about it. She came to us, which was very exciting. Yes, it was great. And then the last thing was that I've been asked multiple times to request that's one person on the committee or whether that's input from your staff. We would really like to help find the best fit for our district in the future. I think that is all that I have. Any questions? Negotiations starts on next Tuesday. Almost forgotten that I looked at you.
I
Yeah,
heard a rumor there was like world records attendance being set at the primary school.
oh, that's so exciting. I did not hear this rumors. That's
We only
wonderful.
had 9 absence one day last week. In the whole
Wow.
school, only 9 kids.
That's huge.
It was
That's wonderful.
incredible, and we celebrated 3 classes today that only had 1 absence for the whole week in each of those 3 classes. So
God,
just
that's exciting.
incredible, yeah, really, really great news. Good celebration.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's David has something.
Oh, I don't know. All right, moving on to item number 4, consent agenda. If you guys have had a chance to look over that.
You do it, I'll second.
I'll move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed? That motion carries. Item number 5, business and budget appropriations. She's already got stuff up on the screen for us. Go ahead, Linda.
I do. Just look at the April of 2024 board meeting information. So this is the time of year where we're watching our state school fund for 3 years. We're looking at last year, we're looking at current year, and we're looking at next year. For most of those, I don't have a solid number yet. So we have gotten a few estimates, and with the note that we're going to get more. So by May 15th, they have to have our estimates out. They usually have them out closer to the first of the month. So I'm really looking forward to that. We have high cost disability for last year and this year that we'll get a payment on. We have the final for 22-23. We have the adjustment for 23-24, which we have received, and I believe I mentioned last meeting that we had received one, but it was incorrect because it didn't have a full data set. It now does, and so our number looks closer to what we were expecting. And then 24-25 is out. We've got 2 in, and it is lower than what we were hoping, but it's because of our declining enrollment, and we're using the extended ADMW of either this current year or what we're expecting for next year. And so that just keeps happening. We keep using the year before, and it keeps making our numbers a little lower. So that's what I have for now. We continue to stay on track with our income coming in as far as everything else, the local taxes and those sorts of things. Any questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you, Linda,
Thanks,
much
Linda.
appreciated.
Yep.
Did you have an update at all on the parking or on the work? The paving work?
Done.
Okay, perfect, okay, then I won't ask her then, so she was sort of keeping up on it.
Mhm.
All right, moving on to item number 6, we have our healthy and safe schools annual report, and I think Dave Schultz is up for that, so.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Well, I'll just touch on the main topics that are required for the HAS plan. I won't read that first paragraph because it's kind of just, this standard language, but. So just to touch on the highlights right now, the district is in compliance with the radon testing requirements. The next radon testing is due in 2029. The district is in compliance with lead and copper testing requirements. The next lead testing test is due in 2028. That entails over 400 faucets and drinking fountains and things throughout the district. So it's quite a process. And then this district has completed 5 chemical, pesticide, herbicide applications by an approved commercial applicator to date this year. The next step 24. All the applications have complied with the school district's integrated pest management plan and meets the low impact pesticide list. I keep a binder this thick in my office that has all the labels and safety data sheets and all the chemicals that we use and everything. So I have all those records. Okay. Myself, David Schultz, I am current on IPM training and the grounds custodial support staff are scheduled for, and myself are scheduled on August 14, 2024 for our next training. The district is doing our weekly, monthly, and annual testing as required by Marion County Health and for the district's drinking water and discharge water. We just had a couple annual tests come back today and they were both where we needed them to be. So that's good. If they don't come back in the range, then we have to go to quarterly testing, but we're on an annual testing on these 2 main ones today. And then the district is compliant with Marion County's requirements for testing, and there has been no asbestos abatement in the school district to date this year. And then we have a 3-year asbestos inspection and is due in November of 2024. So, anybody have any questions at all or anything?
Do we have asbestos material?
We're getting a little bit, it's getting very limited now. This school, at middle school, 1980, I don't believe has very little. It's usually on fittings, not straight pipes or anything, but usually on fittings. Primary school was built 2000, so nothing there. The new high school, there's nothing in there. There's maybe some older fittings, very limited anymore, maybe in like gym 3 locker room area. And then the intermediate school, of course, is our 1960 building. So yeah, probably any fittings or anything up and not accessible, but attic spaces and stuff like that may still have some asbestos, but not very much is actually even exposed and it could be even disturbed right now. So, and then anything that needs to be abated, we hire the professionals to do it, just because you can take a class, I've taken it, you can do a small, 3 square feet or something, but it's just easier to have probably best to have the professionals come in and then they monitor the air and stuff like that if it's a big project.
Any other questions?
I just had a question where we could find the results of all the tests.
That is on,
The website.
On the
It's gonna be
website.
on the website?
yeah,
or it is
with
on
the,
the- Oh, is it?
with attachments, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's all,
I just
should
thought
be on
about
there.
it.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah, it should be there.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Dave. While you're there, maybe
Yeah.
you could join in this next report. Glenn was just asking about Linda, maybe you and Dave could tag team.
Yeah, she has the list. We helped compile the list together. We kept trying to find the good stuff too, you know? So I think Linda has the list, but I could, if you need anything from me, I can.
Perfect, yeah, there's
Yeah.
lots of things
Yeah.
going on, so we thought
Yeah.
we'd give an update.
Yeah.
So, Dave, would you like me to start and you can just join in, or do you want to start?
Well, you have the list, so if you wanted to.
All right. Okay,
We.
we have had a busy year. As you guys know, we have finished up spending the money for the construction. What was left, we got those 2 roofs done, the high school, the wrestling / playground area. Those roofs are completely done. The wrestling room got an HVAC system with our CET money. Over spring break, we did some soundproofing in the middle school that did not get done during construction. And once you start housing it, then you realize it's loud down the music wing hallway and in the CTE lobby. And we've heard good things about that really did help with the problem that we were having. I guess if Deanne wanted to chime in, she could here. We also did a lot of asphalt work, the contract that you guys approved before spring break. They got in here and got 3 out of the 4 projects done. The driveway, the tennis court path, which is now wider and drains away from the tennis courts. And then also from the visiting concessions over to the baseball concession stand, there's now an asphalt path so that they don't have to either walk on the track or jump the chain or the ribbon that's there during games. So it's a lot safer and not muddy and messy like it had been. Softball lights, we haven't been able to get those replaced or repaired, the ones that aren't working because it's been so wet, but they're going to try to get out there on Thursday, I believe, of this week to take care of that. Back to the asphalt, we still are going to do the middle school walking path, but it's just too wet and we're going to wait until school is out to get that piece done. It just doesn't make sense to tear up too much of our area. The middle school is getting some tankless water heaters. We're living on 1 and we used to have 4. So we're hoping the 1 lasts until we can get that project done. But already just having a new circulation pump has made it so we can get hot water at the district office now, which is really fun to wash our dishes in hot water. The soccer field work, as Bill showed on some of his pictures, is moving along. As you can see, the ground has been disked and harrowed. The stakes are in the ground as to where the field will be so that the irrigation can go in. We have a little bit of a problem there. We're waiting on some information. We of course, had to have a pressure test for our water. We have plenty of water, but not enough pressure. So we're going to have to put in a booster pump to make that happen. So we're waiting on some pricing for that to continue going with that project. But as soon as we get all the information, we'll run it by Mr. Rhodes and then hopefully move on. We do have a permit for the gate there will be a fence that goes along Grimm and Boone's Ferry. And we want a gate access for maintenance so they can move tractors and equipments in and out. And we needed a permit from Marion County to get that. So there's a few things we have to follow to do that, but that's been approved, paid for, and we're ready to do the work when we can. We're getting bids we're getting a bid on the fence too right now. So we're really busy. We're getting things done around here. So that's really nice. I think it's going to slow down now though, Dave. Did I miss anything?
Something popped in my brain, but now it slipped out again. So sorry about that.
Oh, tennis courts. The
Oh,
tennis
yeah.
courts will be steam cleaned on Sunday.
Sunday. So,
You know how it is when you fix everything else, you know, that one thing that
Yeah,
still looks like
yeah.
it needs to be done.
well, I'm excited about that. That's interesting process. They're gonna come out and steam it, so I'm really looking forward to the before and after on that. So,
Linda, the booster pump, is that a district expenditure?
Yes, it will be. It could turn into a little bit of an expense too, because we got to get power out there to do it. But we're working on details of that. Hopefully, can get that going in the next week or so, because we're holding up the irrigation system. But once we know pricing and we know for sure we're putting in the booster pump, then the irrigation people can continue. So
Awesome, thank you.
the recommendation on that from our electrician, John, was to put 100 amp service out there, and then that way we can, if we need to do lights or
At some
an
point.
concession stand or something, that we're trying to look for the future, but that 100 amp service will be plenty for this booster pump, that we just can't be throwing any more hard lines. We need to have some help with some in-ground sprinklers, so like Bill was saying, we just keep getting more and more square footage and more acreage, so yeah. So.
Makes sense.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Mhm.
thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Yep.
Alrighty, next up is curriculum instruction and assessment reports. We have Desiree. For that, and another report
Yeah.
too, right?
Yeah. This is just a brief update on where we're at in our adoption process. And for the most part, we are just excited to be bringing our materials to you next month. As well as just the work that we are doing. Obviously, adoptions aren't just a one-year process. They're a multi-year process where you get them into people's hands and make sure they're running the way that we want them to and getting training the way that our staff need to. So I appreciated Jana's comments. That's really about a system that our leaders, our instructional leaders at the building, our principals are making sure that our teachers have what they need to put these materials into place. Also, it was mentioned that we're in the middle of testing season, so state tests have begun in earnest across the district and taken up a lot of time with logistics, making sure everything's running well, but we really appreciate the level of dedication our staff has shown to making sure that those are treated with a high level of respect and that kids take them seriously. And I'm happy to report thus far that our opt-outs are fairly low. So we're hoping that we'll have really good participation rates, which is fantastic because it gives us good information about how to improve our systems. So any questions?
I'm glad you knocked on that, because I was gonna ask you to mention that, but I didn't want to jinx it.
Right, exactly. I'm very superstitious, but we're excited and it feels like we're having some good momentum with it. That's it.
All right, so our first action item is actually the calendar. Do you want to?
Yeah.
That too, then?
Absolutely. So I'm not going to give a big presentation, but I do want to just to point out a few things that this year, the calendar, we really took seriously the feedback that we received from the board last year as our other adoption, our calendar adoption went through. We know that you took a leap of faith with us and on that adoption, but that we had a call to action to make sure that student contact time was a priority this year, as well as continuing to put into place the good professional development that our staff have really benefited from this year. So we worked hard to take in feedback from our community and from our staff. And like I said, the feedback that we received from the board when our calendar was adopted last year and came up with the calendar that you have before you today. A few things just to call out because they're really exciting. One is we were able to get up to 173 student contact days, which is huge. And that represents actually the maximum we can have based on our contract. So that was a request at the end of last year, and we really worked hard to make sure that was put into place. We're gonna have one slight change to the overall kind of schedule that the calendar is impacting, and that is extending
just by 15 minutes, our PD, our early release time on Wednesdays. By doing that, we give our teachers a good, full, solid hour. Right now, they technically have an hour, but by the time they get done with bus duty and get to their classrooms and get settled, it's really more like 45 minutes. And if you've ever had to have a really good discussion, 45 minutes is a hard, short amount of time to get started and wrap it up. So by extending it just by 15 minutes, we see a minimal impact on student contact and our families. But the maximum comes from now we could take away some of those random PD days we had throughout the year that actually then created weird extended breaks that were impacting our families and additional transition times that aren't good for kids. So we have a very clean calendar that we're presenting to you. It looks pretty typical, but we know that it has that built-in professional development time as well as that maximized student contact time. So really excited about the work. And I want to extend a big thank you to the teachers that served on the review committee, because they came with a lot of really good feedback that we were able to utilize. The other piece, just because it came up at a recent board meeting, is that we specifically worked hard to make sure that the calendar had built-in snow days so that we don't have to worry. Even if the state had not given us extra time this year with our current count, with this calendar, we would not need to make up any time. We have really a good amount of time built in. We have maximized our instructional hours and actually go above the Division 22 requirements by over 4 days for the high school, which is the maximum one. And then we're way over on all of our other days as well for all the other schools, meaning that we're in a really good spot. The other thing is that the shifting of all that, we built in additional time into the middle trimester. So you might notice that that trimester is about 4 days longer. And that's really because when there's going to be a school closure, it's usually during trimester 2. And this year, with the trimesters perfectly even, it actually created a little bit of a deficit. Because we lost days during trimester 2, that trimester was shorter than all the rest of them. Now it can be shorter and it will actually end up being exactly the same as all the rest of the trimesters. So we're excited that the calendar played out the way it did. And the feedback that we got from our community allowed that to happen. So we really appreciate that.
And graduation is?
The graduation is the first week of the June. So yes. Yeah, and we're ending at a good time. We're ending far away from the June 19th, which was a big issue this year, trying to rearrange around that. School should end in a good time for our families. We're really feeling positive about the calendar because of that. The other piece is Bill and I had a goal of presenting you a 2-year calendar, because we know for our families that could be really huge to have it laid out. And because there is an element of the calendar that is always impacted. It's not fate, it's math and science about how calendars work, but it sometimes feels like fate. Like, where does Christmas land and how does that impact where break is? Where does this day land and how does that, where does Labor Day? Labor Day lands on a really good time the next 2 years. So we don't end up having to have 3 or 4 days into the school year before we can actually start in September. So we're presenting you 2 years worth of calendars for 24-25 and 25-26. And those 2 calendars are identical in the number of minutes, in the number of student days, in where things fall. We'll really be able to put forth 2 really solid calendars for our community so that they can do some long-term planning around things like breaks and how they want to use their family time together and make plans for daycare and the things that impact our families. So.
I will say I'm very pleased.
I am too. I'm very tickled by this calendar. It's just after this year's calendar, I'm very happy with this calendar, and I feel like it will be a big relief for a lot of our families and our staff and for kids. It's really the biggest impact that we saw this year. There was things about the calendar that were great, but we saw that impact of shifts and we had some time off and then we come back and then we have some time off, and it wasn't great for learning. And I feel really good about these chunks of time for learning. And we have our membership support as well, which is really awesome from the associations.
Any other questions?
I was just gonna comment, I really appreciated seeing the data behind the calendar. I did notice that teachers and teacher or parent employees wanted to go back to the late start
Mhm.
Wednesdays. So, I mean, you can kind of look and see that it's kind of even just like last year's survey. Can you talk a little bit
About that decision?
yeah.
Well, I think the first part of it was wanting to make sure we give ourselves time to see if we can make a system work before we immediately shift back. So that was kind of a commitment to doing that for at least 2 years. The other piece was the 50-50 split. The teachers are definitely more in favor of the potential of going back. Whereas families were like this, the early release is working better for us and our families and kids' schedules. And that element of student impact is something we want to make sure is a driving force in all of our decision making. So that was a big part of it, is thinking about what families were telling us in terms of student impact. I will say, and if you go through the spreadsheets where it just lists all the comments,
Yeah.
one of the things you'll notice is a lot of comments around just like, how can we be even more creative about how we think around professional development? And I think that will be a good question to think about moving forward, because I think the point you're making, combined with those other comments and just looking at the calendar overall, I think there's always things we could look at and think about. But I think, and I know that I've mentioned this to Glenn when he's asked me questions about it. Next year, when we have 2 years under our belt, really taking time and getting some just really specific feedback on late start versus early release versus other methods, to kind of bring that all to the table in a more specific way. Because right now, there's a lot of comment. It's just like comments that I had to kind of interpret and sort versus like a really directed survey about just that in particular. Does that make answer your question?
Absolutely makes sense, yeah.
We know there are more factors. A little bit of little bit of our response to that was to try to add that 15 minutes to the time, because one of the drawbacks to the current schedule, was kind of that truncated time when teachers are used to an hour and a half of good solid time in the past to have that truncated that way. So we responded a little bit that way. We know there are other challenges, especially at the secondary level, because not all kids go home at, at the end of the day and that type of thing. But we're trying this to see if we can make it work.
Great.
Thank you.
Do we need to make a
We do? Yeah, this is the next item, so.
Okay, I make a motion that we accept the 24-25 and 25-26 academic calendar as presented.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Thank you for all the contact days.
Good calendar.
Any other discussion? We will move to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you very much for working on it.
We will start communicating this out with families and getting it posted. We'll go through one more round of proofreading. Thank you, Kelsey. And then we'll get it out to our families.
All right, moving on to 8B, we have a recommendation to adopt OSBA policy rewrites for section D, E, F, and KL. And so
I will make a motion that, I will make a motion that B and C be postponed to our work session as discussed previously.
Yeah, I second.
Yeah, we don't have a recommendation on that.
Well, sorry,
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we take the B and C board action items and postpone them to a work session as we had previously discussed. Sorry.
That's okay, but there is no action, just to point out, there is no.
Oh, okay.
action item for B and C in this agenda.
yeah, the
Oh,
recommendation.
the one I see is,
Yeah.
is that you recommend to adopt, and I'm making a motion that we're postponing adoption to a work session.
Okay, so what did you?
What am
say
I
again?
seeing?
I'm seeing D, E, F, and K.
Yeah. Board action item B, board action item C. Do you want me to read out each session?
Oh, okay. I see,
section?
you're
Yeah,
referring,
but
you're referring
those
to,
aren't A, B, and C, those are different sections.
you're referring to sections of the
Board
agenda,
action.
not necessarily
Mhm,
section of
yeah.
the.
Do you want me to do it a different way? Okay, I'll start over, it's fine. I
One of the-
will, yeah, okay, I
I would,
will,
sometimes a chance just to present, you know what I mean, on
Yeah.
behalf of staff, you know, it would be good, it would be great, I would just like to share. You know, that, you know, it's my belief that we've kind of shifted in terms of how we want to process these policies, you know, from what my original understanding is. And I do want staff, and staff have done a fantastic job, I want to acknowledge the job that staff have
Mhm.
done, you know,
Yeah.
and taking the OSBA recommendations and then putting the North Marion School District take on those before bringing those to the board. And as I talked with Glenn as we were setting the agenda, you know, it was my wish that I think it's okay to shift directions. Hearing the superintendent's recommendation and hearing how the board might respond to that, you know, could be important for the superintendent as well. I said, it's okay that, I don't mind getting voted down, you know, on a recommendation. But this is just in general, you know, as thinking about when a recommendation comes forward from the board and staff, how we want to process that as a board and staff together. And then we can always come back, you know, with another recommendation and those types of things. So just a point, you know.
yeah. I mean, I was in Florida, so I wasn't
Uh-huh.
privy to our typical agenda meeting, but,
And I just
I'll make
haven't
a note
had,
of
I
that.
haven't had a recommendation moved
Mhm.
forward yet on any of the policies. So it's just one of those, it's just a point to make.
technically, we did approve some last time around. Quite a handful, yeah.
That wasn't my recommendation. My recommendation did not get to
Yeah.
the table, didn't get to the table.
Yeah, the all or nothing, yeah, yeah. Okay, so I will make a motion that we postpone D, E, F, K, L sections and G sections to the work session as previously discussed in our prior board meetings. I'll second.
Have a motion and a second, all those in, oh, sorry, is there discussion?
I just have some questions. This is again, a hefty amount of policies, so when you say we postpone them to a work session, are we gonna examine each one? Are there any that we can adopt now? I mean, are we just gonna say no to all of them?
Well, we were supposed to have a discussion about them in the work session previous to this meeting that was supposed to take place after this meeting. But due to the superintendent search, we couldn't have them. So it's my fact that I've been working on the spreadsheet for Diane where we could submit our questions and which policies we had questions on. And then we would use that document. Have you read all these?
No, but
Yeah.
that's why we have that's
Yeah.
why Bill did the work though,
Yeah, well,
so,
I mean, we can agree to disagree, but it would, when we voted on that last year, the board was supposed to be involved. And the board was not involved in any part of
Actually,
that
point of
process.
order, what we tasked Bill to do, he did.
No, I agree, but
That's not actually
OSBA.
correct.
OSBA was supposed to bring us edits, we could make changes and send it back. We can go back and watch that video and that's what it states.
I have,
Yeah,
what we tasked him to do, he did, and he spent hours with his staff doing. So to say that he didn't do that is disingenuous.
that was not my intent and I apologize for that piece. But the board was supposed to be more involved. Rather than have a stamp of, this is how it is, yes and no, input on it. That's not how I would have voted differently if that was what the OSBA had put forth.
Is there further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, nay. That motion carries.
who was opposed?
I myself. You included G in there?
Mhm.
Okay. In the motion. Alrighty, so we are up to superintendent and district operations report.
Excellent. So contrary to, the following weather, this was a particular day on campus in the North Marion School District where, there was really a lot of evidence of a lot of folks supporting each other, kids and staff and parents and community supporting each other on a beautiful, like 75-degree day. When things were really, really looking nice, and it's just really nice to get out and see so many kids. If any of you were outside in the late afternoon last Tuesday, you would have seen all the secondary events going on, including, it seemed like 1,000 middle school kids out at the track. Some of these kids putting out amazing effort. Oops, keep on that just one more time. And then, and all the other kids, with just great fans and great staff. I guess I will say, if you notice the color of the tennis courts, everything else looks like the right colors that they're supposed to be. Those tennis courts are gonna pop right out by the time they get steam cleaned this weekend, kind of making that campus look good. And if you're out there in the late afternoon, you're also hearing the primary school kids leaving school that day or out on the playground. So it has that extra energy of all the kids out there because they exit out through the back and you have all the kids out there at the same time. So just appreciating seeing all those traditional spring activities moving. Thanks, Linda. I don't know if you know, but there's, also a great staff at the central office and somebody had a birthday, reasonably recently. And that was your board secretary, Diane, and we haven't had a chance to, publicly, kind of share that appreciation for the fact that you were born, Diane. So much. And, I'm just thinking, Linda, let's go back one time and because you guys didn't want to sing very loud.
Oh my gosh.
Happy birthday. Very good. I didn't want to leave it out, getting hurt. Turning all colors of red. All right, Linda, thanks. Again, and some of the folks here, there continues to be a lot of work going on in the interest of kids. We're continuing to have opportunities to think about how we plan for our kids' futures. We've got some neat planning motivation because we've got that early literacy grant to think about, and then more recently some summer school funding to think about. And it's been really fun to continue to do this kind of really long-term thoughtful planning, not kind of jump in a room for a day and think about how we want to organize and then try to do it, but to really do some thoughtful planning. So we appreciate the teams. This is the early literacy grant team, but they're also really now, as I'll mention, start to think about, have time and thoughtfulness to think about how we integrate these activities, with the work in regular schools and how it supports what we're doing now and where we're going with our curriculum and instruction. So again, thanks to the folks who keep coming to the table and coming together to be so thoughtful about that. And oh yeah, if you go back one, it took me go back one, Linda, it took me a long time to remind Des, you gotta take pictures. You gotta take pictures. So, you see one where I snuck in there, but I only got back, so we got a really good one posted. Okay, thank you. the star of the fourth grade music program show was here. Yeah. So, but, you know, those just keep rolling. And one of the things I tried to capture in a couple of these slides was how many people there are in attendance. And it's just unbelievable when you look out, you know, and see how much support these kids have and couldn't be more thankful of the teachers, you know, and the music instructors, you know, that help support these programs and put them together, that brings so many of our community members in to enjoy the performances of their kids. So thanks so much for that. The same week we had, go ahead, Linda. We had the middle school performance, and again, I kind of grabbed that picture of the crowd at the middle school performances, because you can just see how well attended they are, and you know, it just I hate to think about, it was just a couple of years ago when they wouldn't let us do that. They wouldn't let us do that, and it's so nice to be back and to be able to share our kids' experiences with families and the community again. So great examples of that. I know Stacy and her crew, along with the family nights that Irma has been leading with her staff and the program. Stacy continues to host middle school family information nights, and this was the presenter was, who was the presenter again? I think they did both programs last week.
Well, for this one, it was for our Spanish speaking families, and we had our community student liaison or community outreach advocate, yes.
Yeah.
And we just answered questions and talked, so this was not an actual like super planned presentation, but it was a lovely moment to get families together to be together.
Perfect, and a really nice model of what can happen in a building, to just be able to host some nights and invite some families in. And have some food and food and childcare and the types of things that actually are needed to make those things happen. Okay, Linda? And I've mentioned this before, but I've been really impressed and inspired by our buildings and our staff. To watch that thinking evolve about some early thinking about how we might develop an early literacy grant programs and kind of build what we would want to do in terms of early literacy. And then to watch that actually evolve, to think about how it's integrated with other initiatives and other resources, so we can really make best use of the resources and best leverage the teaching and learning that we do. The summer learning grants are good examples of that too. Those are some resources that just came recently. We had some summer programs in place already. We have some ESSER resources that are used to support some summer school. We had migrant summer school and resources there. We have some of our student investment account resources that are used to support some summer school types of activities. And now thinking about how we braid all of those things together, rather than thinking about them as separate initiatives and separate programs that aren't connected. And it's taken staff really getting right on that and thinking about how to process that and be thoughtful about that, to make best use of the resources and the time and the energy that we have together. And I don't have exact numbers right now, but it sounds to me like our staff at all levels are really interested in participating at pretty high levels in summer learning and summer programs based on our initial surveys and wonderings. And that's a really good sign, because I will say the first year I came here, we said, we'll build it, but they said, no one will come. We're tired. We don't want to do that, but there's just this renewed energy, I think, and hope and great collaboration along those lines, so.
How long is that, what does that look like, summer learning like?
Yeah, it's gonna look different ways. One of the things that we know, that we've recently found, so we'll still have some of our credit recovery programs that we have at the high school, still have the migrant, summer school program, we'll still have the AVID summer school program at the middle school, so some of those things that are already in place. And now folks are thinking about, okay, we have early literacy, how can we build on or expand the things we're doing in early literacy and do some more of that. We've always had Jumpstart, You know what I mean? Maybe we have 2 jump start or something like that, or take, more hops and things like that. We're thinking about triple jump. We're thinking about these transitions, so what are some programs we can build that maybe can really support 8th grade to 9th grade or 5th grade to 6th grade, or thinking about where some of the challenges are for kids in transitions and things like that. We have to, and then I know they're thinking about just some, how about we bring somebody to come in and do a week of STEAM? And they have a program ready to go and we build it and they come. We do have some constraints that we have to work with in the grant. Each program has to have 80 hours of instruction for students, which is more than we do in one of our programs right now, but we're, folks are thinking creatively, about maybe how we join programs and integrate programs to be able to meet the conditions of that grant. So it's pretty exciting to think about and a nice problem to have to be able to plan some great experiences in the summer for our kids.
I have a quick question, but you don't have to answer it right now. Is this like identified students are invited, or will it be a broader range of students?
That's a really good question. And so
I wasn't sure.
So it's program to program. The
Uh-huh.
grant itself is designed to try to support historically underrepresented or historically underserved students in the district.
Okay.
So those are the targets for the state.
Okay,
In fact, not all districts in the state, you may have heard something about
Yeah.
that. Not all districts in the state are getting these resources,
Mhm.
which doesn't make everybody happy. But we did make the list that have the resources. And so we think that we've thoughtfully been thinking also about how to support those. And transportation is a big thing for us, and we believe we have the resources to develop the transportation that's needed to help access for those programs. I don't know, Des, if anything you'd add to?
Yeah, I'll add one piece, which is, who we target and who it's open for are 2 layers. So we're gonna target those historically underserved student populations, but it doesn't have constraints on it in terms of just those, so it's gonna be open to all students, and they're really looking for it to look like our student population. With that special, also how we specifically target to make sure that possibly students who have had barriers to accessing summer school have those barriers removed. So unlike previous grants or funding where it was very specifically
Right.
focused, we'll have a lot more flexibility to open this up. And part of the neat part of that is that the state's really saying, using this funding to create belonging and connection to school. So how do we create opportunities for community building and connection,
Right.
especially when we know kids are maybe at home and don't get a chance to see their friends because they live in Hubbard and friends live in Aurora and parents work. So summer school is this chance to build friendships, build connections, feel like I belong here, people care about me and I want to come back in the fall.
And that notion of trying to, make summer school something that no one would want to miss.
Yeah.
Rather than the thing that, oh no, to create programs that actually generate that kind of excitement for kids to not let it not be there. And I think one last thing I wanted to mention, and again, this goes back to, an earlier conversation. And kind of part of the rationale, but I came bearing gifts. These are the policy updates that come to us regularly in regular sections from OSEA. So this, Linda. So we just got one in April, and so I'm gonna share that. So what you can see, and when I said the notion of digging into policies and kind of getting truly madly deeply into a policy and understanding it and such. Traditionally, this is the work that boards are doing in that work. You can see how many policies have come through because we just had a legislative session. All of these policies need to be updated based on changes in the current legislation. Where we're at right now, I'm not sure how much overlap there is in, you know, I mean, in the other policies and these policies. But one of the things I just wanted to know is the lens that OSBA puts on this. So you can see as it starts to develop summaries and those types of things, these policy updates also consider that they were scanned for whether there's a collective bargaining impact. And so if there was a policy change being recommended that had a collective bargaining impact, we would need to consider that when we were looking at that policy. It makes suggestions about what the specific responsibility is of the district, and it makes recommendations about what other policies are impacted. If you change this policy, then you also have to update this policy, this policy, this policy, and this policy. Again, part of what I'm trying to share is I'm not sure how we do all of that, you know what I mean, with 400 or 500 policies that are out there right now. I wanted you to note the lens of analysis that OSBA puts on that. And then when we look at these as a staff, we look at it in terms of how is that work playing out? Is this true for, you know, for North Marion? And if there's a decision to make the decision that makes it true for North Marion. So, so this is more policy work. There's this current policy work. You look at the nature of some of these policies, they're related to, you know, some of the most important processes that we have going on in the district and need that attention too. So it's that notion of what, you know what I mean, what we have time or make time for in terms of thinking about these this policy work.
I will say, I find it interesting, they list out the ARs on these.
Those are, well, because they're for all of us, you know what I mean? So,
yeah.
you know, so they're, you know, they're for the district, you know, so in essence, they're, you know, they're not just for the board, but they're also, they inform the whole process. So they do, in essence, what they're saying is if you change this policy, you know what I mean, then you have to change something in the ARs. And that is my report. Now you go to the last one. Thank you very much.
Any other questions for Bill? All right, thank you. All right, we're down to 10, so future meetings. So we didn't get to discuss this prior to, because time ran out.
Yeah.
I think we need to be really cognizant of staff's time and all that we're asking of them for the next, you know, few weeks. We've got a new board member that needs to be seated. We have an enormous amount of work with the superintendent search, and actually a fair amount of that is landing on you. I didn't know how much was going to, but it sounds like there's going to be more landing on you than I would have anticipated. So there's my question is, I guess, for the board, I don't know is if the board really has time for policy work between now and the end of either the end of school or the end of June in the scope that we're talking about with, you know, with the updates on those. So I would ask for some, you know, for not just some guidance, but some thought, because we can't be bringing staff in for extra meetings when they're already being asked to do a lot of extra steps, especially this time of year. I just want the board to be cognizant of that. And that's, I mean, that was reflective of my vote, but that's just the reality of it. We have a lot of stuff on the plate. And I'm not sure that adding the policy in that scope and in that volume, if we're actually going to do it justice by the work it sounds like we want to do.
I would be willing to do the 2 vacation days, for my work, to go through post work in September, if that's what you're asking. I would say we originally like a year and a half, 2 years ago, had 2 different regularly scheduled meetings on Mondays. Twice a month, 1 work session and 1 board meeting. And I feel like that's where we need to go back to in the future, because it's too difficult to get a board meeting, work session scheduled. So, that's my opinion.
That is what we did do, for years. We had 2 board meetings a month, and staff is not required to attend the work session meeting.
Correct.
It's usually
Yeah.
just the board and superintendent Diane and Linda. I thought that worked best in the past. I see both sides, and so that's an option. I also think that maybe we'll have a new superintendent doing this work with the new superintendent might be a better way to approach it. That's gonna be the superintendent who will be working with the board in the future and working with these policies. I would be okay with doing this work in the fall. I think the work we have on our plate right now is more urgent than the policies can wait a few months, is what I'm saying. Might be.
The other thing that, like Heidi heard today, would kind of probably the regularity of needing to meet around, bargaining and those
Yeah.
types of things. So that's another thing that'll be going on for some staff and for Heidi.
Well, and there might be executive sessions for the board to meet also concerning that. So that's one more thing the board will be doing, yeah.
Yeah, I would echo what Heidi said and Crystal said. I'm okay with that. I would agree with that. I think the fall was pretty quiet. This last year.
Well, I look at the schedule that they were proposing and laying out, and it's, it's a lot of engagements, it's a lot of different things. And so, yeah, I totally remember when we had, a work session and a thing. I'm not opposed to that. It's just, right now, we don't have it as part of our regular schedule, and so, sorry, Merle, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I'm just here, I'm with you.
I would agree with work sessions. I think that would be beneficial, especially as a new member, just to be able to work through and talk through things and get familiar with.
Yeah, and I think that maybe is something we should consider for next year as a board. I think that's, when we reorg in July, I think that's, I'm hearing that, kind of that want to do some of that stuff during a work session. And then with the new superintendent, we can coordinate and still, sort of, right now we have a lot. So if it's okay with you, I would at least like to take the policy, the scope of the policy stuff sort of off the front burner for a little while, if that's okay with you guys.
And with a new board member coming up too, that will give them a little bit of chance, but.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Then they'll have the opportunity to read it and be involved with a new board member.
It'll also give me an opportunity to read 200 policies. No,
Do some reading.
I need to.
And I will say,
Next week we can come.
I will say that we will finish, you know what I mean, the work we started with those policies, so we will.
You and the OSBA.
And staff,
And
yeah,
staff,
and
okay.
staff, we'll finish that, so what you'll have, you know what I mean, is, a set of policies that, OSBA recommended that staff look through and put
Yeah, and I mean, it is not,
I mean, I
it-
really only have 3
yeah.
questions on the ABC
yeah,
one.
no, it's.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Those are
minor.
the-
I just want everybody to have an opportunity to have the discussions that we used to have, where you would be like, how does this impact and why would you not change it here?
Yeah.
And we can have an open and frank discussion amongst
Right.
new board members.
And that's why I showed, and those are usually coming from these policy updates from OSBA when you had a manageable number of them that you could really dig into and get into.
And I don't disagree. I think 3
Yeah.
to 5 would have been doable. But when it changed to 27, I don't even know what we approved or didn't approve, quite frankly. I haven't went back in, done through that.
Here's the thing that I know is that the policies you have looked at are the policies you're most familiar with. When, you know, as you look at, you know, all the other
I don't know, we
pieces.
spent a lot of time in K.
Well, K maybe, yeah. Okay, I'll give you K. Put those on personnel and implement, you know, and those kinds of things. They just got devils in details and things like that. You know, if you haven't just been living in that word, they're hard to analyze anyway.
Well, it's an amazing system, and you have my admiration that you actually read all these. I'm partway through, but that's the one thing that bothers me a little by putting it off, because unless something's biting my heels, I'm not going to get there. I do believe, though, that we are sworn to live by these policies. So I ought to at least have read them and have some idea what's there.
Well, I will say, as an experienced board member, whatever, you know, these are policies that have been vetted multiple times by not just the superintendent and previous boards, but also, you know, and OSBA and whoever, but also our staff, because I believe that Bill has staff review them if whoever they're applicable to. I mean, I don't think there's anything in there that, you know, you would go, wow, I had, you know, this is outrageous, or, you know, we can't be doing this. I think that, I think you'll find that whatever changes we make will be mays to shalls, you know, that kind of thing. You know, maybe just title designations, or saying maybe that instead of the superintendent, have somebody else do this, or, I mean, I think once we get into it and you see it, that you might get a little more comfort and warmer feeling about how it's handled.
That's probably right. So I guess I would say that Glenn and Crystal and Bill feel like we should use this 22nd April meeting for something more important. That's all right with me. But as soon as time permits, I'd like to see that slug away.
I don't see an April 22nd meeting on our calendar, so that's my question.
Yeah.
We talked about it, but I think we didn't post something because we had different timeframes that we were discussing and didn't know whether it was gonna be a night or, you know, what kind, you know.
Well,
Thursday
originally,
or-
we were supposed to have a work session tonight. And see what kind of progress we could make. That was sort of my litmus test, was if we could make progress and begin, you know, actually going through these. But there again, the work of tonight is, to me, it's more important, and I think to the board, it's probably more important that we follow through, that we make sure that this process with, you know, hiring a new superintendent and making sure the search firm has the resources they need to keep moving, because we're on such a short timeline, so.
And you know, I really like you guys, so I say this with greatest affection, but tonight's, agenda was supposed to be like 30 to 40 minutes. You know, and when you have when you have a six or seven person board and everyone's weighing in on that, things just take longer than you think they're gonna take. And that's what you'll keep finding in this work, whether it's your superintendent work or your policy work or those other things, is that it really, you know, it really is time consuming, you know, like I said, especially when you have 7 board members, you know, really engaged, and that's a good thing, and it takes time.
Was it here the void?
Well, I think that's why you were kind of shifting out of, because what I remember was, you know, we used to stay here till 11 o'clock.
So, is there a due date that we have to get this back to OSBA, or?
They won't post it until we actually
Okay.
finish the work.
So it's not like,
But, I mean, we're operating under the policies currently. I mean, we all said that we would back in July when we, you know what I mean, when we move forward, because you have to, basically agree that that's how you're going to operate throughout the year.
What Diane and I will do though is we'll take a look at this recent update, because there are aspects of it, things around sexual harassment or, or those types of things. And so we really, the things that we know, we really have to have our ducks in a row on.
Yeah,
And we'll bring those to May and June, you know what I mean? To look at and to work on. It gives you a sense of what that looks like, it sounds like too.
From these new ones.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, because our work sessions around these on an ongoing basis are
Yeah.
very much, I mean, they're just, we work through them, you know what I mean? They're just, it's, if there's, changes or if there's clarifications, we very much work through them. I think in the capacity that everybody sort of wanted to work through, which isn't a bad thing, just,
Yeah.
I don't know, we got a lot there to work through. That's my worry, so.
I think honestly, just as we spoke about 1 to 2 daytime pieces where we could.
Yeah.
Sit and have a frank discussion with,
And
board members, everyone at the table, we could have these frank discussions.
Yeah.
I feel a lot better.
That would be my suggestion, is if we do something, it would be daytime. I think I've talked to everybody that a daytime would be okay. I just don't wanna bring staff in here for extra stuff when we're already asking them to be here.
Going
Extra
forward,
lot.
though, definitely in the fall, would love to go back to our old.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a
Schedule.
discussion we need to have in July and set it for
Yeah.
the year, so,
Mhm.
yeah,
This
absolutely.
is, yeah.
Alrighty, if we're good, go ahead.
I just wanted to remind you all of the April 15th due date for your filing.
That's right.
Yeah.
If you don't have it done by that date, they will fine you.
That's.
I've been-
Got yours, Diane.
I've been fine.
That's great.
Well, if you
SCI.
change districts and extend it to your old district, you don't get paid.
Alrighty,
It's not, actually, it's not hard. If you follow the. You can log back in and look. Yeah.
alright, I've got, if we're good to go, well, let's adjourn 7:39. Thank you.
Thank you.